there, Holly Rustick here with grant writing and funding, and we're going to be talking about how to become a federal grant reviewer today. All right, so this is so important. It is a question, as soon as I mention this, like a lot of people don't even realize they can become a federal grant reviewer. And as soon as they realize they can, they're like, how do I become a federal grant reviewer? I want to become one immediately. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is what a federal grant reviewer is and what the benefits are in becoming a federal grant reviewer. But before I start on that today, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get tons of great videos sent to you about grant writing, nonprofit funding, and so much more, including how to become a nonprofit consultant or freelance grant writer. Now, before I get into what is a federal grant reviewer, if you love this video and you want more of this too, I just released a course on this. So if you want to know where to find all the opportunities on how to become a federal grant reviewer, jump down there. This has been a class like high in demand for a long time, asking me to do this. So I finally put it together. So if you want to join that, jump in. Their link is below. All right, so let's go ahead and get into what is a federal grant reviewer. Well, a federal grant reviewer is actually someone who is not a federal employee, okay? That would be a conflict of interest. You are a non-federal person, right? But you are reviewing federal grants. And once again, this is U.S. based, okay? So I know a lot of you guys tune in from different places. So just to be clear on that. In other countries, you might have your own national grants programs. All right, so what you're actually going to do is you're going to apply to read the grant applications that come in the door for those federal grants. And why the federal agencies actually do this is, can you imagine, here's the thing. Maybe you have one grant program, right? One grant program that may have 10 grants available, each grant for $500,000. So they have a budget, a limit on that, right? But do you know, not only 10 grant applications come in the door. That's only how many they can award potentially, right? So they may have 300 applications that come in the door, and they can only award 10. Now, if you only had the program officer reviewing all those, they'd never even be able to get through them. So this is really an efficiency process of the federal government to actually hire people outside the federal agencies to review these grants. And it's more objective then, right? So it's people coming in from the outside, giving an outside perspective to have that objectiveness. And also, you're bringing in people that have experience in the field. Now, these are sometimes referred to as subject matter experts. Don't freak out about that term at all. All right, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But you're bringing in people that are basically having experience out in the field, review those grants, so they're actually going to give the best insight and the best scores then of what they think is reasonable, what they think is actually achievable, and so much more. All right, so let's talk about subject matter expert, because when you're applying to be a federal grant reviewer, as long as you're not a federal employee, you're going to apply for this, right? You need to understand, don't get scared of the term subject matter expert. Don't think you have to have a PhD to be a subject matter expert. Not at all. All you need is experience in that area of the grant program. All right, so think, if it's a Department of Transportation grant and the grant program is green energy school buses, you know, they're going to be funding green energy school buses, and you have experience as like superintendent overseeing school buses, you could apply. If you have experience as an intern or volunteer at a school dealing with transportation or something similar, you can apply, right? So you don't even have to have like decades of work experience. It could be volunteer experience. It could be internships. It could be a job. It could be education as well, right? It could be just, you know, you serve on a board of directors that oversees a type of program like that that's similar. So definitely subject matter expert is somebody just in the field that has knowledge about that area of the grant. So that pretty much is what you are. And what do you do then? As a federal grant reviewer, what do you do? Well, you have to apply, right? And that's a whole process. Once you're selected, though, you serve on a panel, usually with 2 other people and a chair, right? And it's really, really fun because you have to go through, they give training usually on how they want you to review it, but you can't just say, I like this, I don't. like this part. You have to give specific reasons why you like certain sections or why you would score higher, what your score is. You really have to be specific. And then you come to terms with your other panel to see what they scored, why they scored that way, and then you sometimes negotiate and come to a middle ground. Or you might say, oh my gosh, I gave him a 2, but you gave him a 10, and now I see your point of why you gave him a 10. So I'm going to also change my score, and I'm also going to then change my reasoning behind that. So the panel really is there to give that input from the field, from the expertise, right? So how does that benefit you then as a grant writer? Well, you are going to learn how the federal grants actually get scored. You are going to learn what the grant reviewer goes through by being one. You're going to be writing out complete ways of why you're scoring the way you're scoring. You're going to be understanding what they're looking for because you have to follow the criteria. You're going to also understand what pops out and makes sense, right, to you. You may have one grant that has no headings in it and you got lost in it, you're tired, etc., where you have another grant that has headings and ooh, maybe that gave you a great idea then to put headings in your grant, right? You're also going to see some grants that get denied because of simple things and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, they went over page limit and now they just blacked out all those pages. I had no idea they did that. So there's so much you're going to learn as a grant reviewer. So that's definitely one of the tips that you are going to learn so much. That is definitely going to help you to become a better grant writer. Now, the other thing about federal grant reviewers is that they have to do this usually 7 to 10 days to review about 10 different grant applications. That is a lot to do in a very intense, short amount of time, right? So you're also going to learn that, yes, as objective as it is made to be, there's also humans involved. So you're also going to learn that part of it. And that's also going to help you be a better grant writer because it's going to make you say, oh my gosh, I need to make sure my writing is as clear as possible. I need to put some charts in here if I can. I need to make it readable as possible. And I need to write to the criteria because that's what they score, right? That's what they're using to score. So that's definitely a benefit. And of course, another benefit to being a federal grant reviewer is that you are going to increase your professionalism, right? So that's something you can put on your resume that you are a grant reviewer. That's something that you can add to your skills. That if you're a freelance grant writer, that's something that you can definitely add in your portfolio. So if now a nonprofit that you're working with is going to apply for that specific grant, you know all about that grant, right? You are so familiar with it. So you're probably going to have a much better chance of securing that grant than other people who have never been a federal grant reviewer for that program. And finally, yes, you get a stipend. You get a stipend to be a federal grant reviewer. For your time, you get a certain amount. And this changes, the amounts change per federal agency, but on average, it's about $125 per grant. And on average, you review about 10 grants. So a little over $1,000 isn't bad. It usually falls right around there. And it just depends on the number of grants they have coming in, how many grants, applications they've had, etc. And the thing is once you get your foot in the door, you can easily then apply to other places to become federal reviewer, even to the same agency, but to different programs, etc. Because that is a lot of training that they invest in you to train you how to review the grants. So once you have that type of training, they're going to want to keep you around. So that is going to help you increase your grant writing. It's going to help you secure more grants. It's going to help increase your professionalism in your resume. And you're going to increase your bank account. Right? So I hope you enjoyed this today on how to become a grant reviewer. And please know that we do have our course now all about that. So you can really get your foot in the door as soon as possible to becoming a federal grant reviewer.